Quick question. BS aside, how long do you actually think you can survive in an apocalypse? Let me know in the comments below. Anyway, on to the video. Brownhead smacked the table, cursing Hans, the panty-stealing bastard. His anger was palpable as he wondered where the hell Hans had disappeared to. He wasn't alone. The full squad was back together again, as mismatched as ever. Blackhead, whose real name turned out to be Kale, bore the title Previous Handsome Man, and was just as frustrated, irritated by their inability to locate Hans, even after they'd turned the entire fortress upside down. Brig, the newest member of the squad and carrying the nickname Youngest, chimed in, speculating that Hans, being a mage, must have used his magic to create some sort of gateway. Poole, the fourth member and known as Snake Eyes, mocked the idea, scoffing that if magic were all-powerful, they wouldn't even need their arms. His sharp, angry tone cut through Brig's suggestion like a knife. The squad's banter was interrupted by the fifth and final member, Carter, better known as Sleepyhead. With sunken eyes and an exhausted look, he pleaded with them to keep it down, claiming he hadn't slept for days, thanks to Hans the pervert, and that he might die if he didn't get some rest soon. Brownhead sighed helplessly at Sleepyhead's exaggeration, calmly telling him there was no way he'd die from lack of sleep. Snake Eyes, however, begged to differ. He remarked that if anyone could die from it, it would be Sleepyhead, and the rest of the squad agreed. They even brought up Sleepyhead's notorious past as proof, mentioning how he'd thrown up just the day before from being so sleep-deprived. Fed up with the conversation, Brownhead declared that the search for Hans was officially over and told everyone to get some rest. We learned that his real name is Vermin, and he's unofficially known as Second Place, a title he likely gave himself. As the scene transitioned to our Chad, their conversation lingered, with the squad speculating whether it was their captain, Aaron, top dog, and leader of Unit 4, who had helped Hans escape. In Manuel's office, Aaron stood obediently in front of a mysterious figure. Lighting his cigar, the figure introduced himself as William. Aaron, visibly anxious, knew who this man was, the constable of the fortress. Someone with the power to cut off his head in an instant or lock him in a dungeon for the rest of his life. He was the top authority among Casertic's guards. Wasting no time, William immediately questioned Aaron about his connection to the pervert Hans. Standing up, William remarked that it was especially suspicious since Aaron had patrolled District 7 alone, a district guards couldn't even look into. His meaning was clear. Aaron let Hans go. Maintaining his composure, Aaron simply replied that there was nothing in District 7 except for some poop. His response was equally cryptic. "Do you have proof?" The two men locked eyes, silently challenging each other. Breaking the tension, William called out to Manuel, the scheming bastard, causing the short king to nearly jump out of his skin, his aristocratic wig flying off. William, clearly unimpressed, casually noted how good the cigars tasted, sarcastically praising Manuel for affording them on his meager salary. Manuel, catching on to the insinuation, quickly claimed they were a gift from a distant relative. Growing more serious, William asked if Manuel had stolen or embezzled them. The short king, tripping over himself, vehemently denied the accusation. William, his aura suffocating the room, reminded them that anyone living in that castle who committed a crime or helped someone else do so would die by his hands. To make his point, he used Aaron's armor as an ashtray, putting out his cigar while leaving a clear message: "I'm watching you." Aaron, nonchalantly brushing off the burn marks, plastered on a fake smile and told William he'd keep that in mind. The scene shifted to the castle streets, where the evening sunset bathed everything in a beautiful golden light. Our boy Aaron, still irritated by the whole ordeal, cursed the damned Middle Ages and its lack of human rights. Despite his frustration, he couldn't help but think Hans might have actually escaped. His train of thought was interrupted by a shrill scream coming from a nearby alley. In the alley, a ruffian held a woman in his arms, commenting on her beauty and suggesting that he might stay a little longer to dip his chip in the sauce. The woman, Henna, owner of the Laughing Rabbit Inn, was having none of it. She demanded the thug let her go, but her words only made the ruffians laugh louder. A redhead with soon-to-be-clapped by MC syndrome sarcastically told the ruffian to be gentle with Henna, reminding him that they were new to the village and just wanted to make some local friends, the kind that shared a bed. The rest of his gang burst into laughter, clearly enjoying the scene. Henna, however, warned them that they were getting involved in something troublesome and might regret it. The sly chuckles from the inn's regulars confirmed that they knew exactly what she meant. Unfazed, the redhead loomed over Henna, asking what would happen if they didn't back down. He grabbed her bust, taunting her with the idea that no guard would come to her rescue in such a shabby inn. Thankfully, his rambling was cut short by the arrival of Aaron. The inn's regulars, seeing him, called out his name. Seizing the opportunity, Henna darted behind him, while the ruffians tensed up, sensing the shift in the air. Aaron, ignoring the thugs for a moment, casually told Henna 10 days. She countered with 5, insisting that it wasn't as bad as last time and reminding him that, as a guard, it was his responsibility to deal with such things. Their odd back and forth left the thugs visibly confused. Annoyed by being ignored, one of the thugs charged at Aaron with a raised fist. Still in the middle of his negotiation with Henna, Aaron calmly finished by asking for 8 days. With the deal sealed, he turned his attention to the thug, grabbing him by the face mid-charge. Aaron quipped about the thug's foul medieval talking habit, before yeeting him across the room, crashing him into his fellow ruffians. Aaron, now in demon mode, declared it was time to educate the ruffians. The redhead, finally realizing what he'd gotten himself into, broke out in a sweat. The inn's regulars, anticipating the beatdown, cheered and ordered more beer, eager for the show. They were all followers of Aaron, the rogue captain of Kaserdik's guards, and they knew what was coming. Aaron, after delivering a barrage of punches and kicks, commented that there were no bad medieval people, just those who needed to be beaten up. With a final charged punch, he pinned the redhead to the ground, ending the fight. As the locals cheered, ordering more drinks, Aaron wondered if he should give them a lesson too. But before he could decide, the redhead, in a desperate move, tried to unsheath his axe for a sneak attack. Aaron, his gaze icy, asked if he really wanted to go that route. The redhead, sensing the danger, immediately gave up any thoughts of resistance. With that, Aaron clocked out for the day. Later that night as he slept, memories of his past flooded in. We saw the moment he was reincarnated into this world, lost and confused. His saviors had given him the name Aaron. The scene shifted to a city in flames, where a woman, a fierce Amazonian mommy, smiled warmly at him, even in her dying moments, urging him to escape and live on. Startled awake from his nightmare, Aaron drew his sword. His breath labored, his emotions raw. Whatever had happened in the past had left deep scars, but that story would have to wait. The next morning, Aaron, still troubled by the events of the previous night, diligently swung his sword. It had been 6 years since he found himself in this world, and he wondered just how much longer he'd have to keep up his routine. His solitary practice was interrupted by the arrival of a mysterious man. Watching from a distance, the man clapped slowly, commenting on Aaron's swordsmanship. "No frills," he said. "Just pure skill." He remarked that he hadn't expected to find such a proficient swordsman at the border of Kaserdik. His voice carried a mix of surprise and curiosity. Aaron turned to face him, his eyes quickly taking in the details. The man's armor bore the symbol of the Fenner family, a well-known and noble house. At his waist, a spiral rapier hung, its ornate design marking him as no ordinary traveler. The realization hit Aaron instantly. The bastard standing before him was a knight. Knights were more than just men of combat. They were superhumans, wielders of aura, and the defenders of humanity against demons. The knight standing before Aaron was one of these elite warriors, likely from the distant Bolt Fortress. Aaron tightened his grip on his sword, his suspicion rising. What was a knight doing in this remote area? Was he sent by the Empire? Sensing Aaron's distrust, the knight smiled warmly. "You've got nothing to worry about," he said. He admitted he had gotten carried away after witnessing Aaron's sword skills and approached without thinking. Growing more serious, he asked if Aaron belonged to any knightly order. Before Aaron could respond, a loud voice called out, addressing the knight by name. "Ben." Approaching them with her long hair flowing in the wind was the beautiful and graceful Vivian Fulputz, daughter of the Lord of Kaserdik. Flashing a bashful smile, she lightly scolded Ben for leaving her behind, despite being her escort. Noticing the conversation, she quickly apologized for interrupting. Following protocol, Aaron knelt before her and introduced himself as captain of Squad 4. With a formal salute, he cut a striking figure, majestic and silent in his riz. Vivian, smiling brightly, accepted his greeting and apologized for the trouble caused by Hans, the notorious underwear thief. Turns out it was her underwear Hans stole. What a daring down bad man. Aaron, maintaining his stoic demeanor, simply responded that it was no trouble at all, though he inwardly questioned why Vivian needed a knight from Bolt Fortress as her escort. Vivian, unaware of Aaron's doubts, gently led Ben away. She apologized again for interrupting his training and encouraged Aaron to continue working hard for the safety of Kasserdik. Despite her charm and bright smile, there was something about her that seemed off, though Aaron couldn't quite put his finger on it. As they left, Ben glanced back at Aaron, puzzled. He was sure Aaron was a knight, so why had Vivian referred to him as just a guard? Aaron, still calm and composed, watched them go. Something felt strange, but he decided it wasn't his problem. It was better to focus on his duties. But Aaron's day was far from improving. Manuel's voice suddenly echoed through the training yard, calling for him, startling him out of his thoughts. Later, at the inner fortress, Aaron stood motionless in front of a door, hesitant to enter. He had already been chewed out by Manuel for the previous night's incident at the Laughing Rabbit Inn. The thugs Aaron had beaten were actually hired mercenaries, and now Aaron was left to clean up his own mess. Even worse, the person overseeing the situation was someone Aaron didn't want to deal with. Before Aaron could dwell on his dread, a booming voice from inside ordered him to enter, nearly knocking him off balance. Timidly, Aaron stepped into the room. Inside, the intimidating figure of Nova awaited. Kaserdik's administrative officer, her aura radiated palpable anger as she scrunched the paper in her hand. "If you don't like your job, just quit," she snapped. "Stop making things harder for everyone else." Aaron, having expected this from her fiery personality, steeled himself. He had planned to use a strategy borrowed from Kale, a local bachelor known for his charm, by offering compliments and diffusing the situation. However, Aaron's attempt to flatter Nova fell flat, and instead, he came across as an awkward creep, only making her more furious. Sighing heavily, Nova let the issue slide, knowing it was pointless to argue with him. Shifting to a more serious tone, she informed Aaron that the mercenaries he had beaten up were supposed to be sent to Bolt Fortress. Aaron dismissed them as worthless, but Nova wasn't having it. She told him that since he had caused the problem, he would have to take on their job. Refusal wasn't an option, though she promised compensation for his troubles. Aaron found the deal reasonable and accepted, asking what the task involved. Nova explained it was a simple carriage escort. The scene shifted to a gloomy road at sunset, where a convoy was already underway. Aaron, part of the escort team, felt uneasy. The number of mercenaries seemed excessive, and they were all heavily armed, as though preparing for a battle. Something wasn't right. Curious, Aaron asked a nearby mercenary who was riding in the carriage. To his surprise, it was the leader of the thugs he had beaten up at the inn. The man, now wary of Aaron, instantly became defensive, wondering why Aaron was even there. Despite their banter, the mercenaries soon began discussing their camp for the night. They were heading to a nearby village, one Aaron seemed to recognize. As they arrived in Noctville, the village was eerily deserted under the pale light of a full moon. The mercenaries joked nervously about demons being the cause of the villagers' disappearance. Meanwhile, the red-headed mercenary, now following Aaron, asked to tag along as Aaron wandered away from the group. The carriage, briefly shown in the background, carried a mysterious figure, silently smiling within. Aaron ignored the redhead's questions as he wandered deeper into the village. His mind was elsewhere, recalling the last time he visited this place. He had gifted a child a book, and the boy's face had lit up with joy as he called Aaron Sir Knight. As they walked, the redhead cursed, stepping into a pool of blood. Aaron warned him not to look up, but the man, ignoring his advice, glanced skyward and was met with a horrific sight. Countless corpses crucified and hanged in neat rows. Unable to handle the gruesome scene, the mercenary vomited on the spot. Aaron remained calm, though visibly disturbed by the sight. Suddenly, a voice called out from behind him, catching him off guard. Turning quickly, he was met with an unexpected sight. He asked her what she was doing there. It was Lady Vivian, the daughter of the Kasserdik Lord.